Ever wondered why some automatic cars die young while others last forever? It's not just luck. There's a secret killer lurking in your driving habits. Watch as we follow Joe, a guy who thought he knew cars. In just one day, he makes every mistake in the book. By the end, his transmission is toast. Don't be like Joe. Learn the deadly sins of automatic driving before it's too late. Picture this. Joe, our everyday guy, starts his morning thinking he's outsmarted the automotive world. He's got a genius plan to save gas and show off his driving skills. Spoiler alert, Joe's about to learn a hard lesson. As Joe backs out of his driveway, he does something that makes mechanics everywhere cringe. He shifts into neutral. It's all about that fuel efficiency, he thinks, grinning like he's just cracked the Da Vinci Code of driving. Oh, Joe, if only you knew. Here's the kicker. Joe's little neutral trick isn't just wasting fuel. It's like playing a twisted game of chance with his transmission. Every time he coasts, he's rolling the dice on his car's future. And trust me, the house always wins in this game. Watch as Joe coasts down hills, feeling like he's outsmarted the system. He's got that smug look on his face, thinking he's cheating physics or something. But here's what Joe doesn't realize. With every inch he coasts, he's losing more control than a roller coaster with no brakes. You know what the experts say about this neutral nonsense? It's like driving with a blindfold on. You're basically asking for trouble, gift wrapped and delivered right to your doorstep. But Joe, he's too busy patting himself on the back to notice the disaster he's brewing. As Joe cruises along, his car starts making some weird noises. It's like the vehicle equivalent of, "Hey buddy, what's wrong with you?" But our man Joe, he's convinced it's just his car applauding his brilliant driving skills. Newsflash, Joe. That's not applause. That's your transmission crying for help. The further Joe drives, the more his car protests. It's practically begging him to stop this madness. But Joe's on a mission, and nothing's going to stop him from saving that precious fuel. Not even common sense, apparently. As he pulls up to work, his car jerks violently. It's like the transmission is making one last desperate attempt to knock some sense into him. That's strike one for Joe's poor, abused transmission. But our oblivious hero, he just chalks it up to character in his ride. Let's break it down for a second. This neutral nonsense isn't your friend. It's the silent killer of transmissions everywhere. It's like inviting a burglar into your house and then being surprised when your TV goes missing. Joe might think he's saving a few pennies, but he's racking up a bill that will make his wallet weep. Joe parks his car, completely oblivious to the carnage he's just inflicted on his poor vehicle. He struts into work, probably thinking he deserves a medal for his eco-friendly driving. Little does he know, his day of automotive destruction is just getting started. Just when you thought Joe's automotive antics couldn't get worse, lunch hour rolls around. Watch as our clueless car crusader serves up a fresh slice of transmission trauma. Ever wonder what happens when you treat your parking gear like an emergency brake? Joe's about to give us a front row seat to this mechanical meltdown. Noon hits, and Joe's stomach is growling louder than his car's protests. He's in a rush to grab that greasy burger, and guess what? He doesn't even bother to stop completely before throwing his car into park. That grinding noise you hear, that's the sound of Joe's wallet getting lighter by the second. Here's a fun fact that will blow your mind. That little piece Joe's abusing is called the parking pole, and it's about the size of your pinky finger. Now, imagine asking that tiny thing to stop a 2-ton car. It's like trying to stop a charging rhino with a toothpick. Spoiler alert, it doesn't end well for the toothpick or your transmission. You know it's bad when mechanics have a special name for it. They call this move the transmission terrorizer. And boy, is it living up to its name in Joe's hands. He's not just doing it once or twice. Nope, our man Joe is going all in, parking like this every single time. His poor car is probably wishing it could drive itself to the nearest dealership and trade itself in. As Joe scarfs down his lunch, his car's transmission is heating up faster than the fryer at the burger joint. It's like a fever, but instead of chicken soup, this patient needs a complete transmission fluid transfusion. But does Joe notice? Of course not. He's too busy planning his next drive-through conquest. Speaking of drive-throughs, as Joe pulls away with his second helping, because why not? His car gives a shudder that would make a washing machine jealous. Is it just grumbling about Joe's questionable dietary choices? No, it's trying to send an SOS to any mechanic within earshot, but our oblivious hero just cranks up the radio, drowning out the cries for help from under the hood. You'd think these warning signs would be impossible to ignore, right? Wrong. Joe's got a PhD in automotive neglect, and he's chalking up every concerning noise and shake to character. Oh, Joe, if only you knew that character in this case is code for impending doom. Let's break it down for a second. Every time Joe shifts into park while the car's still rolling, he's basically asking that tiny parking pool to arm wrestle with the entire weight of the vehicle. It's not designed for that kind of stress. Experts warn that this habit can lead to some serious long-term damage. We're talking issues with the locking pin, the output shaft, and a whole host of other parts you don't want to have to replace. And it's not just about the immediate damage. This constant abuse is like a ticking time bomb for Joe's transmission. That grinding noise? It's the sound of metal scraping against metal, wearing down parts that were never meant to endure that kind of friction. It's like Joe's writing a blank check to his future mechanic with every premature park. Just when you thought Joe's car couldn't take any more abuse, he decides to tackle the big hill on his way home. And boy, does he have a plan. Joe's convinced he's about to outsmart every car manufacturer and save a fortune on gas. His brilliant idea? Throw the car in neutral as he coasts down the hill. Spoiler alert, this isn't going to end well. As Joe's car picks up speed, he's grinning like he just won the lottery. But here's the thing, he's actually losing control with every passing second. The car's shaking like it's about to fall apart, and Joe's still thinking it's all part of his master fuel-saving plan. But let's be honest, that shaking isn't excitement. It's pure, unadulterated terror. Now, watch carefully because this is where Joe's plan goes from bad to worse. His foot's hovering over the brake, ready for action. But here's the kicker. In neutral, that brake pedal might as well be a decoration. Joe's about as useful as a screen door on a submarine right now. Halfway down the hill, reality finally hits Joe like a ton of bricks. He's going way too fast, and panic sets in. This is where things get really ugly. In a moment of desperation, he slams the car back into drive. The sound that follows, that's the transmission saying its final goodbyes. But let's take a step back for a second. Here's what Joe didn't know. Modern cars are way smarter than he gives them credit for. When you're coasting downhill in gear, these clever machines actually cut off the fuel supply. It's like they're giving you a free ride. But Joe, in his infinite wisdom, thought he knew better. By shifting to neutral, he's actually burning more gas. Talk about irony. And it gets worse. By relying solely on his brakes to control his speed, Joe's putting them under immense strain. Imagine trying to stop a runaway train with a rubber band. That's basically what Joe's doing to his brakes right now. They're heating up faster than a hot pan on a stove, and if they fail, Joe's in for a wild ride he definitely didn't sign up for. But wait, there's more. When you're in neutral, you're giving up a huge chunk of control over your vehicle. It's like trying to steer a shopping cart down a steep hill. You might think you're in charge, but you're really just along for the ride. And in Joe's case, it's a 2-ton ride that's quickly becoming a lethal weapon. Expert advice is clear on this one. When you're going downhill, you should actually be downshifting manually. This lets the engine help slow you down, giving your brakes a much-needed break. Pun intended. It's like having a built-in backup system for your brakes. But Joe, he's thrown that backup system out the window and is free falling down this hill like there's no tomorrow. As the sun sets on Joe's day of automotive destruction, his transmission finally throws in the towel with a resounding bang. The poor thing just couldn't take any more abuse. Now Joe's facing a repair bill that will make his eyes water. We're talking more zeros than his bank account has ever seen, all because of those smart habits he thought were saving him cash. Let's be honest, folks. Joe's story is a cautionary tale for all of us. Treating your automatic transmission like a punching bag isn't just bad for the car, it's a direct hit to your wallet. But here's the thing, it doesn't have to be this way. Imagine this, regular fluid changes every 30,000 to 50,000 miles. No more coasting in neutral and actually using that parking brake when you're parked. These simple steps can extend your transmission's life and keep your hard-earned money where it belongs, in your pocket.